Hello everyone, welcome back to coderinboots. So in this video, today we're going to discuss about the Flyway Database Migration, that software configuration and installation. Okay, so in the previous video, we have discussed about the fundamentals of Flyway, the internal working of Flyway, how it works, everything. So it was mostly a theoretical part. So in this video, we are going to get into the real implementation of Flyway. So in a typical project. So this will help everyone to implement similar setup in your projects or in your use cases. So I'm going to use an Ubuntu machine, okay, and MySQL database. So in the Ubuntu machine, I will be installing the Flyway, and MySQL database will be my database where I'm going to apply the migrations through Flyway. Okay, so I'm going to quickly provision an Ubuntu machine from AWS. So you don't need cloud to install Flyway. You can install Flyway in Windows, in Ubuntu, or any flavors of Linux, Mac OS, etc. You can install it in on-premise servers. Flyway has Docker. Basically, like it can be even installed in Docker containers. Okay, so let's quickly provision an instance, AWS EC2 instance. I'm going to select Ubuntu 22.04. So even it works with lower version of Ubuntu. So let me check. Let me provision an instance quickly. So it does not need much configuration. Okay, it is like a very lightweight service. It just do some metadata checksum management and all. So you don't need like a very large machine for running this Flyway. Let's wait for the instance to be up. Yeah, it's up. So okay, so let us log into this machine. Ubuntu is the username. Yeah, we logged into the machine. So let me change the appearance of this so that it will be visible. I'll make the font size 12/14. Okay, so this is visible right now. Okay, I'm at root, and let's download Flyway. Okay, so to download Flyway, what we need is we need migration. Let's Google it out. So let's get into the official website of Flyway. Download. So there are two editions basically from Flyway. There is a community edition and enterprise edition. So what we are going to do is we are going to go with the community edition. So here you will see there are various options to interact with Flyway. So we are going to go with the command line interface. There is like a Java interface, API interface, etc., Docker interface, everything. We are going to go with the command line interface, which is for Linux. So this is the enterprise edition. I'm going to go with the community edition. Okay, so under the community edition, you will see Flyway for this one, Linux. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to copy the installation script. So in this installation script needs some cleanup, because when I see there are some problems in the script. So let me clean up this. Okay, there is a dot missing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this line by line. Okay, tar.gz, and I don't want the contents to be, okay, I'm just downloading it as a file directly. So let's go into the machine. Okay, so wget. Okay, we already have wget. So first we are going to download the Flyway command line for Linux into this machine. Okay, so we downloaded the tarball. It's a tarball. So I'm going to extract the tarball, tar-xvf, the file. So it will download the tarball. It will extract the tarball. Now you see the Flyway command line got extracted, and this is the tarball. I'm going to delete that because I don't need it further. So now let's move this tarball. Right now I am in the location /root. I don't want to keep this Flyway over here. I'm going to move this Flyway to /opt directory. Okay, So this is the safest place to install or keep optional installables. Okay, so now where is Flyway? /opt/Flyway. Okay, so now if you see I am inside /opt/Flyway, and here if you see there is a command line executable which is Flyway. So what I need is I want this to be added to the system path, so that whenever I type Flyway from anywhere, I should be able to use it. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a symbolic link, a soft link. Okay, soft link, symlink, soft link. Okay, so from this location to /usr local bin Flyway. Okay, so if I have any file or any executable under /usr local bin, what will happen is when I type that particular executable, it will be accessible from anywhere in the system because it will be added to the path, class path. So let me try. Now I have created the symbolic link. Okay, so now you see there is a link, okay, soft link, which is pointing to the actual file which is located inside this one. So let me come out of this. Now let me type Flyway. So now you see Flyway is installed. Okay, so it is not the configuration is not complete, it is just the basic installation. And if you see the commands, so you can see migrate, clean, info, validate, baseline, repair, check, snapshot, version, etc. Okay, so there are only less than 10 commands. Okay, so if you see the main important commands, if you see it is almost 7 commands. Okay, so migrate, clean, info, validate, baseline, repair. Okay, so these are the important commands, and there are a set of configuration parameters also. Okay, so these configuration parameters can be either passed as part of the command line argument, or if you go inside the Flyway installation, okay, you will see a conf directory. Inside the conf you can see a configuration file, flyway.conf. Inside this configuration file, all the configurations are maintained. So by default it's an empty configuration file which basically which has the default values. But what we can do is we can override this with the right configuration so that we can use it in a proper way. Okay, so Flyway, as explained in the fundamental or the foundation video, so Flyway internally stores the metadata in a database. Okay, so we need a small database system for Flyway. Okay, and if you see the Flyway conf, it supports a wide variety of relational databases. If you see, it supports Aurora MySQL, Aurora Postgres, Cockroach DB, okay, DB2, Derby, Fire. So it supports a series of databases, a wide range of relational databases. Okay, so what we can do is I'm going to use MySQL here. So let me install MySQL in this machine itself. So I'm going to do apt get update. Okay, apt get update, and then let it complete. And now I'm going to do apt get install MySQL -server. So this will install MySQL server in Ubuntu machine. So if you have a database in a different machine, or if you have, let's say you have in if you're using Amazon, let's say you have a database in RDS, Amazon RDS, you can use that. And if you are on Azure, if you are using Azure SQL, managed SQL for Postgres, or managed database for MySQL, you can use that. So since I want to basically make it minimal and show this and they are working in a proper way, I'm going to install the database myself in this machine itself. Okay, so I think the installation is complete. Now let's get into the database. Okay, so by default it accepts the root login without password. So I logged into the MySQL as root. So now I'm going to create a database for Flyway. So what we need is we need a database for Flyway. We need a user credentials for Flyway. Okay, and I'll create another database for my application. Okay, which I'm going to demonstrate, and I'll basically enable access to that database as well. So I'm going to create a database, create database Flyway DB. Flyway DB. So this is the database where I'm going to store the Flyway's metadata. Now next I'm going to create a user, create another database. No, before user I'm going to create another database, application DB. Okay, so this is a database where I'm going to store my applications metadata. Okay, so in the practical way scenario, it could be like, I mean, you can actually think about like a different database. This doesn't have any relationship with Flyway. This is basically where my SQL scripts, whatever I am placing, the version to SQL scripts, so that will get applied. Okay, now I'm going to create a user. Create user. Oh, sorry, there is some problem. Create user. Okay, Flyway user. Okay, at localhost identified by some password. Okay, created the user. Now grant all on. First is I need to apply it on Flyway DB, right? Flyway DB dot star to Flyway at the rate localhost. So to this user I am giving the grant privilege. Similarly, I am going to do the grant privilege to application DB as well. So now this Flyway user will be able to access the application DB and the Flyway DB. Let's test the access. Okay, MySQL -u Flyway user -h localhost -p. Yes. Okay, so I got logged in, so that means I'm in the user credentials, everything is working fine. Let's list the databases here. Show databases. I can see application DB, I can see Flyway DB. That means my configuration, my grant privilege, everything is working fine. Okay, let's come out. Now let's get back into the Flyway to configure it further. So let's go to the configuration file. So now open Flyway conf. It is located in the Flyway home /conf, Flyway conf. Open that. So now first thing is to configure the database URL. That is there in the first here. If you see flyway.url, let's uncomment that and let's copy the connection URL which is specific to MySQL. So I'll copy this URL. And what's my host? In my case, it is localhost. You can update it with the host where it is running. Okay, port is 3306 and database is Flyway DB. Okay, now Flyway driver, it will automatically auto detected because anyway we have specified the JDBC URL. It has MySQL in it, so it will identify and pick up the Flyway URL. Flyway user. Okay, this is the user where Flyway requires log into the database. So we have created a user to log into the database, that is a Flyway user. And Flyway password, this is the password to log into the database. Our Flyway user's password was this one. Okay, now let's scroll down further. Now next will be Flyway default schema. So this is the database or the schema where Flyway stores the metadata. Default schema. So here also we will use the Flyway schema. Okay, Flyway table, basically there is a history table. By default the value is Flyway _ schema _ history. So if you want to override it with something else, you can override here. I'm not going to touch it. So it will create this table, Flyway schema history, in the Flyway DB database. Okay, so store the Flyway's metadata. So remaining, let's scroll down. Okay, so this is basically the place where Flyway picks up the SQL scripts files. So we want to, by default, I mean it will have basically file system column. File system means basically our file system. Okay, so it could be, I mean you can specify basically S3. Okay, or like it could be Google Cloud Storage. Okay, so or something else. Okay, so but right now I'm going to basically go with a file system based, a local disk file system based. Okay, so I have to specify the directory till the SQL directory. I'm going to go with /opt/ let me pick up the directory. Okay, opt/ okay, Flyway. If you see here, there is a SQL directory. Okay, let's point into this SQL directory. pwd. I'm going to copy this and I'll configure it there. Otherwise this will throw error. Reason, it doesn't have the full path, it has only like a relational path. Okay, so if you are executing Flyway command from any other location, it won't be able to identify this location. That's why I'm giving the full path right from the root. Okay, so now let's scroll down further. What else is there? Undo migration prefix. So this is what I have already discussed in the last session. So basically the prefix. So by default, Flyway needs capital V for version to migration. If you want something else, you can override it here. For undo migration, it is expecting capital U. You can override it here with this configuration if you want something else. And let's say for repeatable migration, it needs capital R. If you want something else, you can override it here with this configuration. And the separator between the version and the description, the separator is double underscore by default. And if you wanted to change it with something else, you can override it here. Okay, so and again, the suffix SQL script migration suffix, it's by default .SQL. If you want to change it with something else, you can do that. So I'm not going to touch any of those configurations. I'm just looking at the remaining configuration. Okay, so this is something that we need to configure. Flyway.ignore migration pattern. So what we will do is *:pending. Okay. Okay, I think with this we have all the configurations ready, I assume. Okay, so to summarize, what are the configurations that we configured in the configuration file? So one was the URL, second was database user, third was password, fourth was schema, the Flyway schema, then the next was, again, it was the schema related. Again, there were two things. One is default schema and another one schema. Then next one is the location where the Flyway picks up the scripts. So basically this is the location where we need to keep the SQL scripts. So this location, we have locations we have configured. Then ignore patterns. Okay, so basically these many configurations we modified in the Flyway configuration file. So now let's do Flyway info. Let's execute a command Flyway info. Let's see whether our configuration is correct or not. Okay, so now if you see Flyway community edition 9.14.1, okay, it basically picked up everything. It is picking up the Flyway DB, okay, it picked up the JDBC URL, and it's showing no migration found, which is correct because we have not placed any migration script in the Flyway database. So let's go to the database and check what happened after doing this execution. So we have a database Flyway DB, right? Let's list the tables inside this. There is nothing. Okay. Let's do Flyway validate. Okay. No migrations found. There is basically there are no files in this configured. Okay. So let's go to opt Flyway SQL. This is the place where we configured the place to position or place the files. Okay. If you do an ls, there is an empty text file which has put your SQL migrations here. Okay. So that, they just kept a note here. So this is the default location. If you want to change it with something else, you can change it. And I have already explained the configuration. So let's create a DDL. Okay. So 001.0 _ create table.sql. Create table application db dot users. Okay. Name varchar 10, email varchar 30, phone int 12, Okay, so this is the DDL to create a table. Create table application db dot users, name varchar 10, email varchar 30, phone int 12. Okay, so this is right now inside the location, and we have given v for version. Okay, and we have a version 001.0. Description create table SQL. So now let's execute Flyway info. Okay, so it picked up the file. The category is version is 001.0. Description create table, type is SQL, installed on. This is not applied. Okay, if you see the state is still pending. Okay, and it is installed on. It is not applied. That's why it is not giving any date. So now let's do Flyway migrate. So this command will do apply the migration to the target database. So let me duplicate this session. Okay. So I'm into this use application DB. So if you see right now, there are no tables in the application DB. Okay, but I just placed a file over there. And similarly, let's check the Flyway metadata table. Okay, there are nothing in the Flyway metadata table also. Now I am doing Flyway migrate. Okay, let's see what happens if you do the Flyway migrate. So if you see, successfully validated one migration. Okay, it did a validation and also successfully applied one migration to schema Flyway DB now. Okay, at version this one. Okay, so now let's see show tables. In the Flyway DB, there is a table in the Flyway DB. Okay, so what is this? This is basically the table that I already discussed that stores the metadata of this migration. Okay, now let's check the application DB. So now in the application DB, you will see there is a table users which got created as part of this migration. Now let's see what is there in the Flyway DB, that is where the metadata gets stored. So start from Flyway schema history. So as I explained in my previous video, so if you see here install rank, let me describe this table first. Describe this table, Flyway schema history. So this is where how Flyway maintains the SQL executions. So if you see, there is type script checksum. This is something that basically stores the checksum. Okay, if you see this SQL script, it has a checksum stored in this table. Okay, and basically this is the checksum value. So based on this checksum, it identifies the changes that is happening to the file. So Flyway does not allow any changes to a versioned script. Okay, it is expecting any changes to this database through migration has to happen through a different file. Okay, different new version. Okay, new version. So let's say, like, I'm going to opt Flyway SQL. Let's do some insertions. Okay, or let's add a column. So we'll copy this SQL. No, not copy. Let's create a new file. Nano. Okay, v00. It has to be incremental version. Okay, it has to be always higher version. Okay, so we cannot create a version which is already existing or a lesser version. We always have to keep a higher version. I'm going to keep 1.1. Okay, alter table. So here there is a problem. I have to use double underscore as a separator. Dot SQL. Okay, alter table application DB users, add column, place varchar 20. Okay, so this will basically what? Add a column with the name place. Okay, so I'll do in a much better way. Add column place varchar 20. Okay, now if you see the SQL scripts directory, you will see 1.0 is a create table and this one is alter table. Now let's do Flyway info. You will see the create table was 1.0 and it was already executed. Okay, sometime back we have executed. This is success one, and there is a new script which is 1.1 alter table and it is not executed. Okay, so let's do Flyway validate. Okay, so validation successful, so it's basically like proper. Now let's do Flyway migrate. Okay, now you see successfully applied one migration. Okay, now let's do describe. So use db describe users. You see a new column got added as part of the current change. Okay, so in this way I can basically place version scripts to the Flyway, and Flyway will do what? So now if you do Flyway info, I'll see both the migrations are successfully completed. So let's say now if I want to take the metadata associated with maybe the version 1 of application, I just need to pick up all the v1.0 or v1 related SQL scripts from here. So SQL scripts, you usually store it in the version control system like a GitLab or GitHub or Azure DevOps. So in one of my upcoming videos, what I'll explain the CI/CD pipeline, okay, the DevOps associated with Flyway, so that the scripts from the GitLab, okay, or GitHub will basically get migrated to the database through Flyway. So through a continuous integration process, continuous deployment process, the scripts will get migrated. Scripts will be stored in the version control system and will get deployed through the deployment pipeline. Okay, I'll explain that in future, but right now in this video I am trying to explain, I try to explain the functionality of Flyway and how it works. Okay, so now I think we have discussed about the two SQLs and how it gets applied and a simple set of Flyway. So I hope this is clear. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment below this video, and please subscribe my channel for further updates. So I'll be posting more interesting videos about Flyway and other technologies. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Thank you for your time.